Hello, welcome to another episode of the Talking Rangers podcast. Today is Thursday, February 1st. It is the middle of the All-Star break. The All-Star festivities will get going here over the next couple days into the weekend. The rest of the NHL, including the Rangers, are on the All-Star break. This is episode 18 of the Talking Rangers podcast. We've got a lot to discuss here, kind of a midpoint of the season, even though technically they consider the midpoint, although the Rangers are, in terms of games, halfway through with 49 games total played through 82 this season. Joe, we got a lot to discuss. How's it going, man?
Been good, get a little bit of a break from kind of a disastrous couple months. It's nice to not being able to be frustrated every night watching this team play, but, it's a good time off emotionally and for the Rangers.
Yeah, it was a rough month of January for sure. Kind of started late in December into January. So hopefully this break is good. I think this break comes at a really good time. Sometimes it comes at a rough time when teams are hot and then break comes and they get cooled down. This is a good break because this team is struggling, even though they won against the Senators last Saturday, 7-2 to close out the first half of the season. They've still had a lot of struggles and hopefully can get some things figured out. So we've got a lot to get into today, but we'll start with some of the news of the week, news earlier in the week that broke headlines and is really upsetting for a Ranger fan because we were all optimistic. We were all excited to see him return, see what he could do to this team, a team that was in much need of center help, and that was Filipino. There's two elements of this. There's two aspects. We'll get to the human aspect first before we get to what this means for the Rangers from a team and hockey perspective, but just a human element of it. You feel for him because this is a guy that obviously is still young, really good contributor to this team, a guy that was obviously got hurt early in the season, worked all the way back, goes back home, where when he first went back home, you were starting to wonder if that was it for him for the season. Worked hard to get back here, back to the States, back to New York. Not even back for really a week, not just back a couple days, trying to ramp up, morning skate before the Golden Knights game last week at MSG, gets hurt again, re-injures it, and he's done for the season. And just a human element, you hope he's okay, but you feel for him, mentally that he had to go through all that training to get back for his teammates, for his team, and then to fall down again, to get hurt again, and now have to get back up again, now have to restart everything that he gained over the last couple months is really, really unfortunate. You hope he's okay. And of course, obviously this is bigger than hockey. He's only 24 years old. You hope he gets healthy and gets ready for next season. But what was your reaction to the Filipino news after things really seemed to be heading in the right direction?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. He's like one of the best players on the team, and it sucks that, obviously, like we're saying, like his health is the most important thing, but it's just got to be like mentally like exhausting for him, like going home, feeling like he's improving, getting better, and then he's coming all the way back here, gets in a skate with the team, probably feeling good about himself. Then in the morning skate, has like a freak accident. I think the report is that he like fell over like Lecision stick or something and maybe hit his head, or we don't really know the details, but it's like pretty scary stuff, like concussions, like one of my friends, Danny, in high school, he had a bunch of concussions, and it like you could tell it like takes a toll on you, like mentally and physically. It's a really hard injury to come from, to like get better from, because you don't really know. I feel like it's just like it's not like a bone where it heals, where like you can like see the progression, what the timeline is. It's something that you can't really predict, and I feel like if you keep compounding them, they get worse. And he's had a couple now, so you just gotta hope that he can mentally get healthy, physically get healthy, and hopefully this like just resets. Like he doesn't have to like feel like maybe he was pushing himself maybe harder than he should have been trying to get back this season. I think for him, it's kind of good where he just doesn't need to worry about hockey. He can just worry about his health. But yeah, it sucks for him and his family.
Yeah, no doubt. And, it seemed like, maybe he was pushing a little bit, but, either way, just to be back for a couple days and to go down again is obviously a really tough blow for him. Only ended up playing 10 games this season. So, he'll use this time, even more of an opportunity for him over these next couple months to get, healthy, and hopefully be ready by October of next year. But of course, this is bigger at hockey, so you just want to make sure that he's okay even before next season rather than something else happening and really putting his career in jeopardy. Now, the team element of this is the center position, which will most likely be solved through the deadline, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But before we get to that, we're going to break down some of the top performers so far this season, along with some of the players that need to step up their game, some guys that have really struggled so far through the team's first 49 games here before we head down the stretch here in February, March, and then, of course, April before the playoffs begin. So I guess if you want to, you could start. We'll each give a player one that's two play. Well, you'll give a player, then I'll give a player that's doing good, and then we'll do the same thing, vice versa. You give a player, I'll give a player that's doing bad, and we'll get to some trade targets and some other stuff a little later on. So if you want to kick things off, what is one guy that has really impressed you this season before we get to all the rest of the stuff?
I don't think this guy is going to be like an obvious like.
Mm-hmm.
I want to choose someone a little bit not so obvious. I'm
Yeah.
going to go Will Cooley. I just think that
Mm-hmm.
the aspect of his game is just really impressive. How physical he is. He's seems like he's a good skater. He forechecks hard. Again, he hits everything. He's really good in front of the net. I think he's going to be a really good player and definitely a player they need in the playoffs. He just seems like he's a hockey player you want on your team. He's got skill. He's got grit. And I think he's had a really good season for the amount of playing time he gets. I think you can argue that he could definitely be deserving of more ice time than he is getting right now. But I think he's honestly, I mean, the other three young kids, Kako, Keto, Lafreniere, they developed over time, starting to get better. But it seems like maybe because he's older coming into the NHL, but he seems like he's developing quicker. And I think he's a huge part of this team. Like I said, the physical aspect is a thing that this team's been lacking, especially in the postseason, where they kind of went away from grit more towards skill. You kind of saw that in the Devils series where they were getting worn down. I think later in the playoffs, you need a player like Cooley, and I've just been really impressed with his whole game. And he's a guy that I think could have a big impact second half of the season after this All-Star break, and then hopefully eventually in the playoffs.
Yeah, I totally agree. Definitely a good choice there. Cooley's been awesome. Something I've been super impressive is just his forechecking ability, along with obviously the physicality. He's not afraid to get into the face of some of the league's most physical players. I mean, you even saw it against the Capitals where, he wasn't afraid to get up and close to guys like Tom Wilson and guys like that around the league that are obviously known for being physical, known for being your goon type players. For a guy at his age, at just 21 years old, he'll be 22 here in a couple of days. His birthday is February 5th, I believe. For a guy that's that young, only in obviously his second season, really his first full season because he only played 4 games last year, to see all that, to see the physicality, see the forechecking, he plays a game where it feels like he's kind of a veteran. He just knows the game, seems to always be where the action is. And of course, as he is a third line left wing, he's not going to be the biggest scorer on the team, but he's one of those guys that is able to make a very big impact while not scoring. And it's funny we bring up Will Cooley here right off the bat because earlier I was doing some nerdy stat digging earlier on NHL.com, and he's obviously got 8 goals, 6 assists, 14 points this season, plus minus a +3. But I was looking back at the 2020 second round draft picks because he was, of course, picked 60th overall in 2020. And where he ranks amongst all 2020 second round draft picks this season. So among all 2020 second round draft picks, he's third in goals, fourth in assists, and fourth in points. So he's been one of the better players so far to come out of the second round in that draft, especially this season. So just some nerd stuff that I was doing earlier, looking at some of the numbers. But the play on the ice is impressive. Obviously not the biggest stat guy, but that's just not his job. But even those as well, for what he needs to do, backs it up, and he's been
I think
very
it can
impressive.
develop though,
Yeah,
offensively.
yeah,
100%.
and I think it's even so much more important too because just imagine like the conversation we'd be having right now if he was having like serious growing pains and having issues, having to look at having almost issues at both wing spots. Not only looking at a right wing for this team, but also looking at a left wing. Like if he was going through growing pains, you would have even more problems. So just from his overall, him playing like this benefits the team just from a trade deadlines perspective as well, because you don't have to, he's solidified obviously there in his spot. So a lot to like from him. He's been really good. So and he's young and he's only getting better, which is, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but this team does have a lot of veteran guys, but there is some of that young talent that you've seen. Obviously Schneider's still young. Of course, Will Cooley's still young. Some of these guys that, even though this team is in a win now mode, are going to be helpful and continue to get better in the future. So I guess I'll go next here. This guy is kind of obvious. It is obvious because we've talked about him a lot. So I guess I can kind of go half here, half and half. I'll go number one, Vincent Trocheck, and then I'll get to another guy here in a second, which I kind of want to discuss this position in general. So Vincent Trocheck's this season been great. We've talked about him a lot. Not much more needs to be said about him just from what he's done on the ice this season. Him and Panarin have been one of the best 1-2 punches in the entire National Hockey League. He's got 15 goals, 31 assists, 46 points through 49 games played. If you pace that over 82 games this year, he's on pace for 25 goals, 51 assists, and 76 points. Those 25 goals would tie for the second highest in his career. And if he continues on this trend, he's on pace to set career highs in assists and points. So having a career year, has been a monster player for the Rangers. We've said it so much. If it wasn't for him and Panarin, this team would be not anywhere where they were right now, because these two guys, even through the ups and downs of this season, have been the most consistent pairing. That second line has been the most consistent, and every night you're going to get production from them. So Trocheck's been great this season. Was good last year, but even better in year number 2 with the Rangers. Obviously is on pace to set some new career highs in a couple different categories. And another guy too that brings some physicality. He's got the chemistry of Panarin, which is great. I think a big reason why Panarin's been so good this season is they always know where each other are in the ice. And I think just Trocheck's ability to get him the puck, the shot first mentality from Panarin, they both kind of work off of each other. So that's Trocheck. What are your thoughts on him? And then I'll get to the other guy here quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I had 3 guys that I was thinking of before we were discussing. It was Coley, Trocheck, and I don't know if the other guy you were thinking of was Quick. Those are 3 guys that I thought have been impressive and been good. But yeah, no, Trocheck I was gonna do, but I kind of wanted to do Cooley because I think he just needs his credit. I feel like, and I feel like Trocheck would have been the obvious answer. But I feel like if you went first and said Cooley, I would have said Trocheck or vice versa. But yeah, Trocheck has been unbelievable. I mean, defensively, he's been really good for that line. I mean, the other 2 wingers aren't the best defensive guys, so he's got to do extra work there.
Yeah.
Offensively, he's been great. Power play has been great. Faceoffs has been great. He's been a complete player, and can't ask for anything more out of his game. I mean, he's done everything, and especially those faceoffs. I think that was a big improvement you saw this year with the team, was faceoffs, and he was a big part of that. I think he's still third, top 5 maybe in faceoffs still. I know he was 1, then he went to 2. I believe he's third still. Definitely top 5, but that's really good for this team. As you know, puck possession is such a big part of this game, especially on the power play. If you win those faceoffs and get that possession going, it's a huge thing. And I just think he's been great. Skating, defensively, offensively, a complete great season so far out of him. And just got to hope that he continues, because he's kind of been, I'm not saying there's a lot of black holes or dark spots on this team, but he's been one of the shining bright spots of this team, even through this bad stretch and just the whole season in general. He's been really good. And I think that line, he's been able to elevate Panarin and Lafreniere's game with his play. And I think he's been unbelievable. And you got to hope that he continues to play well down the stretch.
Yeah, definitely. Great that you mentioned the face-off stuff. Yeah, 61.8% this season, which is obviously near the top of the league, and has been a big for this team, because forever this team struggled to win face-offs. And some credit there goes to the coaching staff as well for obviously improving a lot of guys with face-offs this season. So yeah, you mentioned it. My other guy was Jonathan Quick. He's been awesome this year. He's played 17 games, started 16, 10-4-2, 2.43 goals allowed per game. He's 5th in the NHL with that. 915 save percentage, that's tied for 11th in the NFL, and he's had 2 shutouts, or NHL, and he's had 2 shutouts, which is tied for 7th in the NHL. Look, Igor is the number 1 guy, and we're all backing him. We're all hoping he gets better. But I have to ask this question. The numbers back it up. Quick's been better than Igor this year. I think most people could agree. I think people are afraid to criticize Igor sometimes, but it's okay to criticize him. Like he hasn't been his best self. I mean, look, I'm happy he's going to the All-Star game and all that stuff, but he's going to walk into that All-Star locker room with a save percentage below 900. That's not good. You know, he's got an
Yeah.
899 save percentage. When you look at Igor's numbers, I don't want to start hating on Igor. That's not the point of this, but Quick's numbers, I know he's played less games, obviously 17. Igor's played 32, of course, but statistically, Quick's been better. He's been one of the better goalies in the league. You make the argument, he's probably been the best back goalie in the league. If it was game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals right now, who would you trust more in that?
I'm
Still
probably going
Igor?
with Igor. I
Igor,
don't
yeah.
know. I mean, until he shows me for a series that he can't play well,
Yeah.
then I would think other. But in every series he's played in, I mean, he had a couple not so great starts against the Penguins, but that was his first atmosphere in a away playoff game. They're really getting on with
Yeah.
the Igor chance, but he's been unbelievable in the playoffs. Though I mean, I get it, rough stretch here.
Yeah.
Get into the playoffs, and the hope is that he just kind of collects and turns it on. But besides that, I mean, obviously, Quick has been unbelievable, especially for a backup goalie.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. They probably would go Igor, and I would tend to as well. But I'm going to be interested to see as to what happens like coming out of the All-Star break. Because if you remember earlier in the season, the Rangers did a lot of like Igor Quick earlier in the year. And then more recently, like month of January was a lot of like Igor for 3-4 straight games, and it'd be Quick. And it'd be
Maybe
Igor
that's
and it'd be
why
Quick.
the record hasn't been great.
Yeah, it's possible. But do you think they'll go back to that sort of maybe like Igor for 2? Just if he continues to struggle, they'll go back to maybe every other in a way, because they did that more in the earlier in the season, and Igor started to find a groove. Quick stopped winning games, and they're like, okay, Igor, you're still the main guy. You're going to get a lot more. You think they'll go back to that coming out of the break to try and get a jolt?
I probably would. I mean,
Yeah.
just down the stretch, not so much as like load management. I mean, a little bit of that, but I mean, just for the fact that you kind of want these guys healthy, and then also Quick kind of deserves that more playing time. I think Igor's struggling a little. Maybe giving him some off days I think may help him a little, because I think obviously throwing him in there constantly wasn't really helping. So maybe try something different. Like you said, early in the season, it was more of a split. I go back to that definitely.
Mm-hmm. And also top performer, Ben Willaire again. I mean, the guy just turns Jonathan Quick, who was absolutely nothing last year, into. I mean, Jonathan Quick could start for a handful. There's a handful of teams right now that would take Jonathan Quick as their starter, which is
100%.
crazy to think. And I think that's got to give you some confidence as a Ranger fan that, you know, you could definitely trust Quick to. I know he hasn't won many games recently, other than the Ottawa game was his first time winning, I think, since early December. But still, obviously, the other stuff checks out. He's been really good. So giving him some credit here. And hopefully Igor breaks out of this funk that he's been all year. I think something I will say about Igor is all of these stretches, like he's had a very just up and down season. It hasn't been all bad. It hasn't been all good. I think something with Igor, though, that I think we have to give him, I got to give him credit to as well, because is he hasn't had a stretch of like 5-6 really bad games or anything like that. It's usually a lot of times with him, it's 3-4 at most, maybe bad games, but most it's like 3 bad games, and then he'll follow it up with around like 3 really good games.
Yeah.
I will say that's been something.
Spot in one.
Yeah. So he's, you know, you hope that this breaks good for him and he comes out and gets back to playing like the normal Igor. So now going back here to guys that have struggled, although we kind of just talked to Igor there a little bit. What's one of your guys that needs to be better in the second half?
Go obvious person on this one. This is Bubbs and Joe. He's not been good. Like offensively, 5-5. He's statistically one of the worst centers in the league.
Mm-hmm.
He's been atrocious. I mean, like, doesn't drive the play, isn't scoring. Granted, yeah, he's been good defensively, which I guess you can't fully knock him for that, but I mean, he's getting paid to score. I mean, he's the number one center on this team. He's got to start playing like it. Even on the power play, hasn't really done much either. Like, even when they were clicking, he's not hitting those one-timers. He's not getting a lot of like chances to score. So, you know, I don't know. I think the 5-5 I think needs to change. his production has to get better. I don't think it can get much worse. We saw a little bit of a streak in December where he started playing well, but
Mika
besides that, he hasn't
December.
really been like Mika December hasn't that was it. And that
Yeah.
honestly wasn't like too crazy. Um I mean I think his points are kind of deceiving. I think maybe he has like 45, 47 points in 49 games. I don't think that really tells how bad he's been playing 5-on-5. And one thing I think you agree on is they gotta split up Kreider and Zibanejad. They have to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they're playing well at all together.
Yeah, especially 5-on-5. They're not existing. And if we're just being bluntly honest here, Kreider, I like Kreider a lot. And again, we've said it a lot. He'll end up in the rafters one day, but if he's not in front of the net as a net goblin on power plays, he's not really noticeable. He doesn't
100%.
not very good with the puck. Like
He'll
that's his
occasionally
signature thing. Like,
snapshot occasionally.
yeah, yeah. And I think he had one of those. Did he have one of those against Vegas
He had one of them against
or
uh,
Ottawa? Was it the Ottawa game?
yeah.
There's so many goals.
It was a bad goal though. Like
Yeah.
Bill should have saved it.
But yeah, like I noticed that too. Just with them, there's not many of those tipping opportunities on the power
Also,
plays or even on 5-on-5 for Kreider.
dude, I don't think Mika has scored since like a while. I think he's got like one goal. I know he scored in that Vegas game, but the like it was like a garbage goal in Vegas. It was like on the power
Yeah, it
play,
was the one in Vegas. Yeah,
but I think since like December like 30th, he's got
he
one goal,
he
which is
finished.
horrible.
Yeah, he finished January with
One goal, right?
1 goal and 8 assists, and I
Zero.
believe they played 13 games.
How many of those were 5-on-5?
What the assists?
Just points.
Oh, I'm not 100% sure. I have to look, but
Like not
compare
many.
that to December: 21 points, 9 goals, 12 assists. So it's been mostly you look at Zibanejad. If we're being honest here, if we're just being like outside of he started out pretty good in terms of assists. He had 9 assists in the first month, but outside of December, he hasn't done anything. Because even November, he had 7 points, 3 goals, 4 assists in the entire month of November, and then December he had a good month, and then you go to January in a bad month. Like just looking at the game logs, you remove December, and this guy is having an awful season.
Yeah.
He's having a bad year, but that's with December.
I think he's got 9 points in December.
Yeah.
And I think 4 of them are even strength. Which is not good.
No. The first line, and this was an issue with this team at points last year, was their inability to score 5-on-5, especially that first line. And we're seeing it again, and they've got to break that up. I don't know if they'll wait till after the deadline to do that. But that's something that maybe they'll give it. Okay, go into the All-Star break, regroup, come out, and see if you can start to do some things. But I think it's got to be a short leash coming out of the All-Star break because there's no more excuse making. They're just not producing. Yeah, Mika's been bad. And when you look at his pace over 82 games, 25 goals, 52 assists, 77 points, for a guy that is really, really bad. Like for a guy that has been a 40-plus goal scorer, 39 goals last year, to only have 25 goals this season, to be your team's leading goal scorer is inexcusable.
I also feel like you just like 5-on-5, you don't notice him offensively. Like he's just not a very he doesn't make any plays.
No,
very
just
very
sits there
unnoticeable.
and waits for the one-timer.
He doesn't do it. Like he used to drive play. Like you'd see him like getting stretch passes, taking the puck into the zone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see any of that, which is concerning. So, yeah.
I don't want to sound too negative, but are you worried at all that the whole core of Mika and Kreider is kind of rotting? Like teams are just figure them out, and it's just not going to work anymore.
I don't think so. I think that they are what they are. You know, I think that they play bad, they play good. You know,
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what happens. My thing is just we'll see what they do in the playoffs. I think this team. I think Kreider's been good both of the runs. If you call that a run, just the Devil series, but he was good.
He was good. 2021.
bad in the first rounds of both. Like obviously last year, won one round, he was
Well,
horrible,
yeah.
and in the year before against the Penguins, he was horrible until Game 6. So,
Mhm.
but then as the playoffs got on, he was better. I'll give him that. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for Zibanejad and these guys, they had to start. They got to start quick because again, Panarin not good in the playoffs last year. Zibanejad was not good. At least Kreider, I guess, was good in the power play. But yeah,
It's the biggest thing with this team. It's the biggest thing with Panarin. I think we still have questions about is what he could do in the playoffs. Because you even look at the playoffs prior the Eastern Conference Finals year. Outside of that goal against the Penguins, he did not have a good postseason. I'm not trying to discount that goal. I mean, that goal will go down in Rangers history. Game 7, overtime, all that great stuff. But outside of that, he was non-existent that entire
didn't really do
series.
much.
Yeah,
They didn't really do much. So, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it was that goal, and that was pretty much it. So I'll give my guy here. I'm gonna go Capo Caco. I don't want to beat the dead horse too much. You know what? We've talked a lot about Capo Caco.
I still don't
He's
think
been
Capo's been. I don't think he's been like as
he
bad.
hasn't been
As
that bad.
people
But
think.
I'll go Keandre Miller instead
Yeah, that's
because
that's a good one. That's a good one.
he's been terrible. This is a guy that I went into the season with high expectations with after he had a really good year last year. A guy with a lot of just natural talent, natural ability in terms of his size, 6'5", long arms, still only 24 years old. Has gotten better each season. Last year had a career high in goals, career high in assists, career high in points offensively, and a much better year. This year, some of it has been at times maybe bad luck. There's been some times where he's been caught in some unlucky line changes against the rush and has been put in odd man 2-on-1 rushes, chances. And, as a fan, you put the blame on him because you see it. But at times it's been unlucky. But other than that, he's been awful. The amount of turnovers in neutral zone, turnovers by the blue line, not getting back defensively, poor against the rush. He just looks overwhelmed. He looks, honestly, he's been in the league for this is his fourth season. He's played 261 games. He looks like he's a rookie trying to learn. Like when he's against the rush, he doesn't seem confident with his play. He doesn't seem confident with what he sees. And that's scary. And then Trouba, who has taken some of the heat for being his partner. And I'm not saying Trouba's been perfect. I think Trouba's had a solid year. But Trouba has had to make up for Miller's mistakes, and then that makes Trouba sometimes look bad because he's put in bad positions because Miller misses assignments, puts him in those positions. But I will be honest with you, I'm really, really concerned with Keandre Miller come postseason time because the amount of times he's on the ice against the rush and teams just make it look easy. And he doesn't even put any pressure. He doesn't even try. He doesn't do anything. He's just he lets it come at him,
Does
and
he? Does he
that's
even do anything good?
worrying coming postseason.
Does he even do anything good though? Like the thing is, like he gets
No,
caught.
he
He's not good.
occasionally
He's not good
nah,
on the rush, like defending
no,
it. He's not good in the defensive zone.
nope.
He doesn't use his skill set, which is speed.
Yeah.
Doesn't use that ever.
At
And he's not
times,
good. He's not good in the offensive zone too. He seems like a
no.
little like he's bad with the puck. Like when he gets the puck,
Yeah.
he doesn't know what to do with it.
I will say, and that's why I think a lot of the turnovers come from sometimes
Yeah,
on
I
the
mean, and he
ozone.
kind of just relies on his talent. Like we were talking, I
Yeah.
think either last week or the week before. Like he's relying too much on his talent and
Yep.
the system and structure that he should be playing in. He kind of plays outside that and just like, oh, I don't have to play in this system or in this structure.
Yep.
I can kind of go out of that because I think he probably thinks he's better than what he is. Granted, he
Mm-hmm.
has some elite or skillful traits like speed and the reach and the length, but he doesn't. He's not smart. He's not a smart player. So,
Yeah. No, I agree. And maybe the only thing occasionally I feel like maybe with his long arms, he gets his uh stick in the passing lane sometimes, maybe, but that's if we're
it's
really
lucky.
trying to dig for positives. Not much.
No, I mean,
This has
he's
been, I think, the
someone.
worst year of his career.
I don't know if this is a hot take, but I could see him maybe being traded at this deadline. If they
Yeah, I especially think too
if
with
they
the
get someone with
emergence,
years, if they get someone with years on their contract, I could see him going.
it's possible. And I'll tell you what, Zach Jones, in terms of just guys emerging, he's emerged here while Lindgren was out. He's played well. He
Yeah,
had a good game against Ottawa. Him and Mackey for Norris.
yeah, he was impactful. He was gritty. I
Yeah,
thought he was good defensively, and I think Jones, honestly, like maybe he's been better defensively than Miller. I mean, I think he's a little bit smaller, so it's a little bit harder for him to play like in the corners
Yeah.
but I think he's been better. Like, I don't know. Miller hasn't been good.
No, Miller's been really poor. He's been by far the worst defenseman. Hey, how if you would rank the least like having the worst seasons, where would you rank like in terms of from the actual worst to like
Like the whole
Mika,
team or like the
just the
guys
whole
we
team?
discussed.
Um, I I guess we could go the whole team because I mean Wheeler's up there, I guess, but where we could go with guys discussed, it doesn't really matter. I mean,
We can just go. We
would
can
you
just talk
say
about guys
Miller's?
that haven't been
Yeah,
playing well. Like just the guys.
like just out of
Igor,
the entire team, the guys, the pair, the who's like the player you feel that has done the least?
Igor.
Igor.
I think he's got to be better, and I think just because of how well he is, like a player like Miller hasn't really proved much yet, so I can't really.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, no, like Shesterkin's got such high expectations, so below a 900, like it's got to be better. And then after him, it's tough because Zibanejad has the higher expectations than Miller, but Miller's been worse objectively. So I
Yeah,
probably go Miller,
Miller is
then
worse. Yeah.
Zibanejad. If I rate like those three guys,
Yeah,
and like nobody
Miller
else,
really.
I wouldn't really put anybody else in there. I mean,
Yeah.
Kreider, you can argue, but I think Kreider's playing to what he is.
Hmm.
Just I think those the guys that I would consider like bad or not having great seasons are guys you're expecting a lot more out
Hmm.
of. Let's be honest, you're not really expecting a lot out of Kreider besides like in front of the net and the power
Yeah,
play
it
and
happens. Yeah.
solid defensive play. But yeah, I mean, like Wheeler and Kako, I think are guys that maybe aren't doing great, but I don't think you're really expecting that much out of them. And I think as far as Kako, he got hurt, and just I think ice time is maybe hindering his development a little. Back and forth, first line, third line. I think that kind of maybe isn't great for him, but it's just as far as I think those three guys, Miller, Igor, who we talked about a little bit earlier, and then Zibanejad as having not great seasons.
Yeah. Before we get into some trade deadline targets, I know some people have talked about this, but you think it's possible that not saying this is true because I don't think it is. I still think Igor's a lot better than this, but you think it's possible that Igor that 2.07 goals allowed per game and that 935 save percentage season was like an outlier for him, and this is not what he is, but he's more of a 916, 917, 920 save percentage, more of like a 2.55, 2.6 goals allowed per game type goalie rather than just a tick above two Vezina winner. Like, you think this might be just what he is, and maybe that one season was an outlier?
I think it's maybe like in the middle of that, where
Mhm.
like obviously, and like no one's gonna put those numbers up every year.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's probably around like 915, 920 ish, maybe like a 2.5, maybe a 2.3. Um, Yeah, it all depends, I think, on how well he's playing, how well the team's playing. But I think it just like in a general like basis, if you want to like get the median and just average it out, I think that's where
Yeah.
he is as a goalie. But we have seen he has the ability to kind of turn it on, and if he has that in him, we know he does. So like in the playoffs, I still trust him. Still trust him. But I
Mhm.
don't think he's this bad, and I hate to say it, but I don't think he's as good as he was in I believe 21, 22. So
Yeah,
yeah.
the Vesna. Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I think he's kind of in the middle of that. Um,
I also find it funny
yeah.
though. This year and last year, where he hasn't been great, he made the All Star game, but then when he
Yeah, the
won the
Vesna,
Vezina,
yeah.
and at that point he had like a 940, was not a select to the All Star game. It made no sense.
I'll be honest with you, the All-Star games in all sports,
I
as the
know, but
years
I'm
go
just
by, it's just losing its value.
I know,
No,
but I'm
yeah, I
just
agree, but
funny that in his objectively two were well, this is his worst year, and last
and
year
he's
wasn't
still in
great
the
either. And he makes the All Star game, but then he has like a phenomenal season, doesn't make it. I
making
think
it,
the
yeah.
All Star stupid, but yeah, that's
No,
besides.
yeah. There's been so many examples of that. Even like other sports, the year Bryce Harper won MVP, he didn't make the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Just to use that as an example. I know it's hockey, but anyway, move on here to some of the trade possibilities. So Rangers are obviously in the market for some winger options along with, of course, center. Now, the biggest trade so far has been Elias Lindholm from Calgary, or the Flames going over to Vancouver. Um, Potential trade option for the Rangers. It didn't really seem like they made much of a push, which is a little frustrating. But what were your thoughts on this move? As for Vancouver, it seems the rich get richer because they've had a very, very good year. And they get even stronger with this trade. What were your thoughts on this? And do you feel that the Rangers were ever really even in the market for Lindholm?
They probably like reached out to see like
Yeah.
what they wanted, but didn't seem like a player they were going to get. I think I don't know what they're going for right now because especially with the center market, it's very dry. There's not many guys out there for them to like go get. Like last year, even last year, I don't think there was a lot of centers. Like the market, for the most part, has just been wingers for the
Yeah.
last couple free agent or trade deadlines. But yeah, the Lindholm trade as a whole, I thought was good for both teams. I honestly don't think like the Flames like blew them out of the water because I mean Kuzmenko wanted to get traded, so like you have
Mhm.
that. They got two guys who were picked in the third round. I don't know much about the prospects. I've heard some good stuff about them, but you have that with them. And then I think they got like a first and a fourth, which again they both did well. I think it was a good trade for both teams. Lindholm's been a little bit of a down year, but again, you can contribute that to maybe not being on a great team and maybe like you're not playing with great players. And I think the same like drive might not be there for guys on teams that you don't think are going to really make a run. So maybe you're not playing as well. But I think it's a good trade for both teams. And yeah, I think that was a guy that the Rangers could have definitely used. But like I said, I didn't feel like a guy that Drury was going to get. Didn't feel like a Chris Drury move.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well. I wasn't really much surprised. I would have been probably more surprised if they would have went out and got him. Um, so when you take a look here, we're gonna go through some potential trade options. I guess if you want to deliver a couple, I know you had a couple that you were looking through. There's also a couple guys I have here if they aren't already mentioned here in the next couple minutes. And we could too take a look at some of the wingers because obviously the Rangers will be in the market for a winger, and ideally you come away with a center and a winger at this deadline. Um, it'll be interesting to see. Things will really start to ramp up here again. It's March 8th, so we've still got a little bit of time here, but um,
Month and a
obviously,
week.
yeah, month and a week. Yeah, that's right. So things are still fluid over the next month. I think depending on how they'll play and all that stuff, I think we'll obviously have a lot more to do with it. But what were some of your potential trades here? And then we'll give a couple of the list of some players as well that could be options.
I think like just to discuss some guys. Just want to like we should bring up guys like I just want to bring up guys that I think they could go after.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's goaltending. Obviously, they just want to get that out of the way. Obviously, no goaltending. They're not
Yep.
going to be trading for a goalie.
Yeah.
Um, and then they could potentially go for a defenseman if they were to move like a Keandre Miller. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the priority right now is obviously getting a winger and a center.
Mm-hmm.
But as
Yeah.
far as guys that, just like I said, the center market's kind of dry. So Adam Henrique, I've seen
Yeah.
doesn't really move the needle for me much, but I think it'd be a solid third line forward or
Weird
third
to
center.
weird to say him with all the years with the Devils, but
Yeah. Um,
we got quick, so
Monahan, which again, I don't think it's going to happen just for the basis of I think Jeff Gordon hates the Rangers and does
yeah,
not like Dolan. And unless we blow them out of the water, I can't see that happening. Those are kind of guys that I think are more like being pushed out right now by the media and stuff. But a couple other people that like maybe you could see getting moved is I was like Kevin Hayes. Maybe I could see that.
yeah.
I think his
Blues,
contract's pretty good.
yeah. They're making a little bit of a playoff push, but I could see it. Yeah, reunion.
Yeah, and then another guy, which this one I don't think is gonna happen, but like I saw it's like been seeing stuff, but maybe like Trevor Zegras if he were to make a move with like
Yeah,
Kako in it, because Kako has been kind of in the rumors lately where they've been talking about shopping him or reportedly shopping him.
you
I'm
would
not
give.
too
Would you
sure.
give up? Sorry, would you give up Kako for Zegras?
I probably would. I think the change of
Yeah,
scenery for both the guys. I think Zegers is from New York as a Rangers fan. I think that would kind of would be maybe a little better for him. And
yeah,
then as far as Kako, I mean, you go there, you're going to get top 6 minutes in power play. So maybe that could be a trade. One, I wouldn't think it'd be 1-for-1, just because I think Zegers has proven more and he's a center.
yeah.
I could see that maybe I would move Kako for him.
That
Not
gets
many
me
guys would
excited.
move Kako for just because I wouldn't give up him for a rental. I think that would be not smart.
Yeah, like Monahan, like the
Yeah, I
Canadians
wouldn't
fans.
do that at all. I think that'd be stupid. I wouldn't like some guys. I think like going into this deadline for any of those guys that are untouchables or prospect wise, I don't think no one on the team is. I don't think besides Zach Jones, I wouldn't trade anybody. Um, Perot, untouchable. I
Yeah.
would not trade him.
I just don't know where Canadian fans. I know. Sorry to interrupt,
They
but
want Perot, yeah.
the Perot and Capo Caco for a
Perot and Kako
1-year
and Perot
rental.
Kako 3 first-round picks. I don't know if that'd be enough for Monahan though. I mean, I don't think that's enough. I think the Rangers have to give more.
Yeah. They're not going to do it. They won't do it too.
Perot is
It's
not
tough
getting.
either way, but
There's a slim chance that Othman may be dealt.
yeah, it's
I don't see
possible.
them getting rid of Gabe Perot, who's definitely their best prospect.
Mm-hmm.
But then as far as like who are like some I mentioned some centers, like who are some wingers you think that could be options?
Yeah, I think Tarasenko we've obviously talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Would be an option. But some other ones that I would potentially look at is like Frankie Vitrano.
A lot of
We've already
people
talked
pushing
about
the Toronto train.
I'd be all aboard the
Coming
Vitrano
back.
train. He's put together a really good season, 22 goals, which is
Scored
obviously
an
really
overtime
good for him.
yesterday.
Yeah, and I thought he did a really nice job when he came over here 2 years ago at the deadline, him and Cop. Couple guys from the Sharks potentially looks like they'll probably sell away. Duclair, Barbanov as well, who I think could both be options. Duclair probably excites me a little bit more, although he's having a down year. I think that could be beneficial because he wouldn't cost as much because he's not having a very good year.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Eberle too. Now he is.
What about the former Rangers? Like, you think there's a chance like Booch or Zuccarello, or that's just like a pipe dream?
I think there's probably more of a chance for Buchnevich than Zuccarello. If I had to
I think it's
guess,
the opposite.
although
I don't know. I don't see many teams making a
I
trade
don't know.
and then trading back.
Yeah.
And then I think they're doing a lot better than the Wild, so maybe the Wild will unload a
Yeah.
little. But
The Wild are really starting to struggle. The Blues, I think that's what maybe potentially could take Kevin Hayes out of the conversation is because they're sort of making a playoff push here. They've got 54 points. They're kind of still in the conversation, but Buchnevich, Zuccarello, who would you rather?
Booch, definitely.
Yeah,
I think the fans would like Zook though. He was like a fan favorite.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of lean towards Zook as well. Like, I mean, if we get like vintage Zook,
He's a guy who could
take him
shoot
all
though.
day.
Zuccarello was more of like a playmaker.
Yeah.
So
Another guy too is Eberle, maybe from Seattle. Now, Seattle is another team that was hot for a little bit. Are they? They've kind of slowed down a little bit in their last 10. I think they're 4-5-1. But if they do decide to sell off, Eberle could potentially be an option, and he's
going to be
another pending free agent. So
this next month is going to be really interesting. Yeah. As it has been in the last couple of years, we're probably seeing most of the trades done before the deadline. So it's going to be a really, especially because I think the deadline's a lot sooner this year. I think it was like mid-March. Now it's like first week of March.
Yeah,
you're gonna see a lot of moves in this next couple weeks. I think the Canucks kind of got everything started, and we'll see like trades pretty frequently. And I think the Rangers are kind of an advantage where they have the cap space now. So gotta hope that they add at least center and a winger. I think they need both because I can't imagine they're going to go into the playoffs with Blake Wheeler in the top, even in the top 9. I don't think he's a playoff player for a top 9 team or a contending team as a top 9 forward. I don't think he is.
Just some other options I was just thinking here for centers, going back there for a second. Seattle guys like Yanni Gourde, potentially. Even Columbus, you go like Boone Jenner, maybe had the big game against us. And then too, an interesting guy out of Philly, Morgan Frost. There's been some reports out there that him and Tortorella don't get along very well.
I don't think we'll trade with the Rangers though.
Yeah, that's the only thing. It's in division. I just don't. That could be, especially for a team that could potentially meet in the playoffs. I don't know if they would do that. But that's just me kind of roaming around here thinking of just some options. Who would be your top? Like if you had to choose out of the list that we've given here, Henrique, all those guys plus the wingers. Who would be like your top three? I guess.
Well, I'm gonna go like a little bit more like realistic base here. Someone that I think is possible and I'd want like the most. But I know we need a center, but I think Tarasenko.
Yeah.
Just to the fact that the center market is just unknown, and I don't really know what to even think about it, where they could even be looking at. And I think Tarasenko is a guy that I think they know they can get, would fill a need, and someone that
Already played.
we already
Was
know
there.
what he
Yeah.
can do here. So I think that would probably be my top guy on the list. I don't think I'll have to give up too much for him. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd probably say Tarasenko. What about you?
Yeah. I think Tarasenko is definitely up there, especially because he's already got the chemistry with some of those guys because he played with them about a year ago.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I like the idea of Frankie Vetrano. I do. He's having a really good year. You get a guy in the middle of a career year, 36 points, 22 goals, 14 assists. He's I don't know the reunion. Like I thought he did really well for us last time. I like the possibility of Frankie Vetrano coming here as well for someone other than Tarasenko, and take another guy from the Ducks. I'll be honest with you. I think Adam Henrique I don't think would be bad option either. I mean,
Could you maybe see like both of them going in a trade to the Rangers, like to get Henrique and Vetrano?
yeah, well, that's what I was kind of thinking. Yeah, if they just
They could do
package them
that.
or throw Zegras in there somehow.
I think they would
I
have
don't
to
think
go.
that'll happen. Zegras, I think it's got to be. If Zegras would come here, that'd be awesome.
I think he would want to play for the Rangers. Like I was saying, he's from New
Yeah,
York. I think he grew up a Rangers fan. I don't think he's having that great of a. I don't think the fit's been awesome in Anaheim, and they
yeah,
have him for years now. I think he's gonna make like $6 million, and they have years on his contract where I'd be okay with moving like Capo Caco for him.
yeah. I'm just
But
trying to think timetable wise for Zegras. He had
I
about
know he's
surgery about what 3 weeks ago, a month ago. He's been out
yeah, I
6 to
know.
8 weeks. He's about what do you think? Probably 2-3 weeks still out from returning. So that would take you up until just about the deadline. Um, that would take you
I
what
mean, he hasn't been
last
great
week
this
of
season
February
too,
probably.
but I mean, like anything's better than no
Nah, I mean,
offense to
he'd be
Brzezinski, but he's a lot better than Brzezinski, a lot better than Bonino, so not better than
yeah.
Barkley Goodrow.
He's got
Maybe
a lot
even
of upside.
Zibanejad.
Yeah, it's possible.
At least offensively, 5-on-5. I can't imagine he's worse.
Who would be somebody you would avoid? Like you don't want him.
I don't think I'd really avoid anybody. I think obviously, I
Avoid
think
anybody. Just take.
just
Yeah.
everybody's got a price. My only thing is for all these guys is don't overpay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give any. I wouldn't do that, and I would not trade anybody on the active roster besides Jones. That you're not getting years back. Like I wouldn't do a rental for like Kako for like I've seen people wanting like Lafreniere. No,
Yeah.
no way. I wanted to pull up some trades.
I would trade Kako before I trade Lafreniere.
Yeah, no, Lafreniere will not be traded. Like
Yeah.
0% chance. I wanted to pull up some trades, and so I've been on like Cap Friendly looking at like the trade
Mm-hmm.
machine. I want you to listen to some of these trades. I want to like how you feel about them. So this one, I assume most of these are Ranger or Canadian fans for these trades. So this one is a second round pick, Monahan for Kako. Is that a
Monahan,
definite no?
no.
That's a definite
Straight up,
no.
Monahan for Kako, no.
Well, no, you get it. I think it's a second round pick, also
Oh,
going to New York.
no.
Here's one that I was kind of talking about. This is Vetrano and Henrique, first, a second, and Kako.
Um, yeah, I would do that.
See, I don't think I would, just for the fact that, well, you know what, Vetrano would
Yeah,
technically.
I would. Because you get a first, you're getting you're killing two birds with one trade.
I guess the thing is though, is you
Zegras
kind
would
of
be nice though.
you need to go out and make another deal though, because who's your third line right winger? Blake Wheeler.
Yeah, that's true. Because you're giving up a winger. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, because you're giving up Kako. Any way you could plug all three of them in a deal?
Like who?
Like Zegras, Henrique, Vetrano for like
Trying to like
Kako.
if you're gonna like try to be unbiased and make it realistic, so have
realistic.
those three guys, right? And going from
Kako
Anaheim,
in there.
Kako would have to be in there.
Second,
Would have to throw
two
in a
seconds.
prospect too. I think
Yeah,
Offman, Kako,
a second first.
that might get it done. I mean, the thing is, because you look at it this way as the Toronto isn't a rental though.
Yeah,
Henrik's a rental, and then I think they have a lot of faith still in Zegras, and I think they're going to want decent amount in return. So I'm thinking that's still like I think the Ducks obviously value those three guys a lot. I think it
yeah,
would have to be along the line. You might have to throw in another first instead of a second. So maybe two
yeah, like
first.
two first. Do
Hoffman,
you think you might?
Kako,
What about two first and a second,
two firsts, and maybe Jones. Maybe the Jones, Kako, Hoffman,
and then maybe just the first,
one first, or maybe a first, and then a
and then a
first next year, or
second?
a second next year that
Yeah,
can become a first if we make the finals or something like that.
yeah,
Because
it's
you're gonna have
incentives.
to give it for a lot, but I think I would do that because just so the fact is it
I would.
could be
I would.
good, but you're jammed left wing. You get a right winger though in Vetrano this year and next year. You have the
You get a
winger
center, which is a
Henry.
rental.
Henry
Yeah,
slides though to your fourth line center.
yeah.
So that's a deep down the middle as you
hmm
go. Zibanejad, and you could always move Zegras to wing. I think he'd be a really good winger in the league too, a right winger.
Yeah,
So you could always go to that. But right now you'd have Zibanejad, um,
Trocheck.
Trocheck, Zegras, Henry down the middle. That's pretty deep. And then
Yeah,
you say the lines would be. I wouldn't do this, but they'll probably do it. Kreider still there with Zibanejad, Vetrano, which that line was pretty good when they were together. And then you keep the second line, and then again, like I said, you're gonna have to probably go out and get another player. Maybe Tarasenko. So maybe
maybe.
Tarasenko,
Or
Egret, Coley. I don't know. You get a lot of
yeah,
players though.
I would
That's
take that. That trade gets me excited. Now,
I don't think it's realistic though. I don't.
no,
I
it's
can't
not going to
see us
happen. They would
trading
never do that.
Zegras.
Drury's not going to do that. But what about we're talking about all this? They're probably going to go out and get Ryan Strome.
I feel we should just swap like rosters at this point with the freaking Ducks. I feel like a
Yeah,
lot of
that's
the
true.
trade rumors are Strome. No, he's honestly not on a.
I
I
don't
think he's
want
got
Strome.
3 years left or 2 years left at 5 million.
All we're gonna do is just watch him miss
He's bad
open net.
defensively though. Third line defense, third line guy. You want a good defense, good kind of like two-way player. You know what I mean?
Yeah. hmm
I don't see again. I don't see
Henrique's
that.
a lot better than Strome. I'd
Yeah,
take Henrique in a
as a
heartbeat
third
over
line
Strome.
center. Yeah,
Yeah.
but what would you give it for Monahan? I know like that's been a big discussion. Like a lot of people are trying to get us to overpay. What do you think is kind of like a realistic, reasonable offer for like both teams?
Um, Monahan, mid-tier prospect, maybe like a second.
I think honestly, because of the market, he probably is going to end up getting a first.
At first. Yeah, it's possible.
Something along the lines of a first, Sakura, and Jones. I think that's a fair trade. Like if Adam
Yeah.
Sakura, Zach Jones, and first, I think that's a fair trade.
So you do think Jones is gonna get dealt?
I think Jones, but like I was saying, nobody on the active roster. I mean, maybe Kako if you get guys with years or
Yeah.
a guy with years.
Yeah.
Jones, yeah, because he's not in the top six. I can definitely see him getting moved, especially because you
Mhm.
can't like really do much with him. He can't go down in the minors. So yeah,
Yeah. I could see it. It's interesting. I don't know. I think I would love the Duck. I like the idea of the Ducks, but I don't know. I think you don't get it. I don't think there's gonna be a massive trade package. I think they'll probably maybe go over Toronto and then figure out
so
their center elsewhere.
prediction right now though, at the deadline, say like we'll just take it more than likely than not again. I don't think they're going to get a defenseman. I think they like the six they have.
Yeah.
Center, winger, who are they getting?
Like my prediction.
Yeah, like who do you think they'll get?
Who do I think they'll get? Um, I think they'll end up with. I think where there's smoke, there's fire. I think they'll end up with Henrique. I'll say Henrique.
Toronto
And
or Henrik and
no,
like
just
Tarasenko?
I'll just go just Henrique, and then
They stick with Wheeler, you think?
I'd go Tarasenko. Sure,
Yeah, I
Tarasenko
think
or I don't know. I feel like potentially just because the low cost, Duclair could be somewhat more realistic. Just because he's kind of having a down year, it's not going to cost much of anything. I think Tarasenko is going to cost more just because of that. Or Eberle, although he's I don't know. I'd probably go Tarasenko and do Claire. I don't know. I like Vetrano. I don't know if that's crazy realistic though, unless if you pair him in a deal with Henrique.
I think Tarasenko is going to happen. I think it fits the need. He's got experience. The Rangers have been known to make trades with the Senators. Obviously, last year, this guy won't be on the Rangers this year again. But Tyler Mott,
Tyler Mott,
they
bring
trade
him
out.
over.
Who knows? Maybe Trey loves him, but the Broussard trade. They've done trades reasonably. Rangers and Senators. Senators going to be sellers. I think Tarasenko will be a Ranger, and then just because of the center market and they desperately need one, I think they're going to bite on Henrique. I
Yeah,
don't think Monahan's coming. I think it's going to be Henrique and Tarasenko.
yeah, yeah. I'd go with that.
Unless they like Wheeler, which I think that'd
They
be
might.
crazy.
He's been playing a little bit better recently, but maybe they'll hang their hat on that.
I think they need
Yeah,
he's not the speed
he's
of his
not very
game.
good.
I just don't think is there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can argue him even being on this roster in the postseason, but I think the center is probably a priority over the winger, just because I think they have some trust in Wheeler or Kako. Again, I mean, you
Yeah,
could also maybe see them going out of nowhere and getting someone that you wouldn't even expect, like not even talked about right now.
yeah,
You could see that too.
yeah. I don't know who would you think that could be? Not talked about. Like,
Giroux,
yeah, it's possible.
I know he
Would
probably
you?
likes
What about
again.
a possible package
Giroux, they
with?
probably have to give a lot just because of his contract. They have
Think there's
years
any
on it.
possible package with him and Tarasenko?
Oh, dude, I don't know. I think we're getting a little crazy here, but
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, I was looking at centers through the league on not so great teams that haven't really been taught, like Erison Eck on the Wild, Strome, we kind of
yeah,
talked about, Kevin Hayes, we talked about. Just trying to think of guys that are on teams that probably will be selling that aren't really been discussed, haven't been discussed a lot. I don't know. It's tough. Like this is a
mhm,
weird, like free agents or trade deadline where you don't really see many guys, and just in general. I mean,
yeah.
we already had probably the biggest guy get off the board already, which was Lindholm. So
Any chance of like an O'Reilly?
I don't know because they just signed him though. He's got
Yeah,
he's got years. I think he would be a good guy to have, but again, I think that's a team that may be competing for a playoff spot, kind of like the Blues. So maybe they don't really.
yeah. I think they're right
Really just,
behind. I think they're like right there with the Blues.
that's a team where maybe they just don't do anything, and like if they make
Mm-hmm.
it, great. If they don't,
They
okay,
don't.
it's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little tough. I mean, a lot of these teams are close, so you don't really know who's going to do what. Like there
Yeah.
might be teams that ended up selling. Like, do you think there's a chance that Gensel gets moved, or you think again that's a team that's going to be in it till the end? They're
I
probably
think
not
they're gonna.
going to move
I think
with
they're gonna.
the veterans.
I think. Yeah, I think they're gonna be in it personally. Or
Again, I mean, you still have Malkin and Crosby there. I think that would probably
yeah,
send a bad message to them if you get rid of probably the best winger on the team. So
yeah. What about like just thinking like another team that has been very good? Um, maybe this could be an option at wing. I mean, I know there's been in past years he's been in conversations, but like a Victor Olofsson or somebody like that.
is he still on Buffalo?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that really. I want to go after him. He's been like a really like up and down player.
Mm-hmm.
That's a team that I think is going to kind of fade out, which I'm a little surprised with Buffalo, but I don't think they're going to
Yeah.
trade anything because they just have a lot of young pieces.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have
Yeah.
any guys where they can move. Like the
Yeah.
same
The
thing.
only guy I think they would move like age wise
There's so
would
many
maybe be like
teams
a
though.
Poso.
No, I don't think that moves the needle at all. I think he's just a good
No,
leader.
No, yeah, I agree. I just if there was a guy that would get moved, it'd probably be him. I mean, he's
The thing about
35, I think.
the guys that we could be talking about is a lot of them are on teams that are like right there, like
Yeah,
the Detroit, like they're right there. They're not gonna really move anybody. The Penguins are right there. They're not gonna move anybody. The Predators, the
like the
Blues, like
Ducks
we're
are not
talking about.
there.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
like it's a weird.
Ducks are the only one.
Well, the
Yeah.
Ducks are like, and then there's teams like I see maybe like Tyler Johnson on the Blackhawks, but again,
Hmm.
I don't really think that he's not a guy I want. I just again, but then you could have a team like Florida, like who moved a Toronto in that season that they won President's Trophy.
Yeah.
So it's hard to predict. The thing is, we need a center and we need a winger, and I'd say in the next week or two we'll probably see a trade.
For the Rangers
Yeah,
perspective, yeah. Yeah,
definitely.
it's interesting when you just look through the standings of teams like even Seattle. If you would go after um one of their guys like a Gourdet or even Eberle, let's just say, even they're kind of on the borderline. Do they go in? Do they sell? And they were really hot there for a while. They've kind of slowed down since, but they're still in the conversation. They probably might just sit back, especially for a team that after made the playoffs last year.
Could you see
Yeah,
maybe like could you see like a crazy move like they trade like Zibanejad or was like something crazy like that?
no, because they still no, I don't think so. No, I think to be honest with you, I think it's gonna be underwhelming. I think they're gonna make a trade for a guy that nobody's expecting, and
It's
we'll
not
all
gonna
talk
be like
ourselves
deadline
into
last
it.
year. We
And
get Kane and Tarasenko.
no,
I think they're not gonna do that again. I think it's gonna be like something small.
I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if they just go ahead and take a wing, take a center, and that's it.
Not even upgrade wing.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I agree.
They might just trust Wheeler and roll with it, switch up the lines,
Maybe
and hope that helps.
maybe call up Perot after the college season.
Yeah. But anyway, any other closing thoughts here before we finish things off?
No, I think we pretty much hit everything. I mean,
Covered it all.
Rangers, what Monday they
Yep, back
start.
against the Avs.
Hopefully, Lindgren is back.
We could
Obviously,
do goals for that.
Trouba will not be playing that game, so still
Yeah.
suspended. But someone I think is going to score in that game.
Yeah, that and the Lightning. We'll go Lightning. We might have an episode before that, but we'll go Lightning anyway. We'll go Avs. I'll go. Mika's got to do something at some point. We'll go Mika.
Gonna ride the Mika train.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go Mika until he scores.
All right. This is a tough one. I'll go with Kako. Score 3 straight games, and
Ooh.
then I'll go Mika against the
Lightning.
Lightning.
I'll go Mika. Mika, and I'll go Adam Fox against the Lightning.
Okay, that's a good one. I think so. Last week, I think we each got one. I got
Yeah.
Aaron against the Senators, and then you did Lafreniere against Senators, and then
Yeah.
we didn't get anybody against
Vegas.
Vegas. Yeah,
So
so
we're looking
I
to
almost
see.
got Wheeler. I almost got Wheeler.
Yeah. Yes.
But I changed to Hemi. So
Himmy VZ. All right. So that'll do it for another episode of Talking Rangers. I have a lot more content coming your way. As always, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.